Hello, and welcome to round 2 of the Parenting Roundabout podcast. I'm Terri Morrow, and I'm here with Catherine Haleko. Say hi, Catherine.
Hello.
Usually on this podcast, we talk about parenting issues, but once a week, Catherine and I like to get together to discuss TV, movies, books, and other entertainment topics, because it's nice to talk about something other than parenting for a change. This week, we have a kind of offbeat episode of The West Wing to talk about, and we've also sampled a new Netflix show. But first, we're finishing up Season 2 of The Good Place, which this past Thursday abandoned us until the fall. We have been tossed into the pit of despair. We are in purgatory until this thing comes back. Sigh.
Yes.
It seemed like we had it for such a short time.
I know, we really did.
The amount of plot that got packed into even this back half of the season
Yes.
is pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Made the writers go lay on their couch with all the potato chips in the supermarket and a bottle of margarita mix and just chill
Just
for a
take
bit.
a break.
They have deserved it.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think of this episode? Somewhere Else was the title.
Yeah,
And it was not at all what Somewhere Else I thought was going to mean. I was really pretty sure they were going to make up some other place for them and that they would have to keep making their forward progress, and if one of them failed, they would all go to the bad place. But that is not what happened.
That is not what happened. In yet another reboot, they got rebooted back to actual real life. It seems like.
Maybe.
Right, it
Yeah.
seems like.
It seems like.
That they kind of... they sent Eleanor... Well, they sent everyone back to... Right.
We only saw Eleanor and Chidi at the
and
very end.
Chidi at the end. Back to, their old life to try to see if they could become good people in the real world without the incentive of trying to get to the good place.
Right.
So, they came up with yet another way to change things up.
Yeah, that was an interesting, and especially since the episode started with Chidi finally kissing Eleanor.
Yeah.
And Janet declaring her love for Jason, and then they split them up again.
Right.
What the fork?
What the
Come
fork,
on.
people.
It's like every season we see them, we enjoy them being together so much, and then they break them up and up and up and up and up.
Yeah.
So that was kind of weird, not where I
also,
expected things to be going.
I also was surprised that Jason was just like, oh, okay, cool. Like, didn't he have something going with Tahani also? Like,
although Tahani did kind of break up with him their last night at the good place, at the
bad
place, good place. So that's the way I justified it to myself. My only thought is that maybe there will be some way in which that happening brings him around in his rebooted state. Maybe he has some residual memory of that or some idea that there's this idealized person out there who loves him or something. Because otherwise, I don't know why that was necessary, because she's never going to be on Earth although if Michael could go and be Sam Malone for a few minutes, then I guess.
I don't know.
I had to laugh for the children, there was a picture on Instagram of Michael behind the bar and then of Ted Danson in Sam Malone days behind the bar. And one of the comments was a young person saying, "Is that from an earlier version of the show?" And somebody had to kind of take this person's hand and say,
"Honey, no."
Way back when he was in a show about a bar. But for those of us who remembered, him being there was delightful.
Yeah. Just a show that no one ever heard of about a bar.
A little obscure piece of TV history.
Right.
That was fun. But now, the question of, is she really back on Earth? I just took it, I assume that's what it was, but there's been some discussion on Twitter. Brian Grubb, who is on TV Avalanche with Alan Sepinwall, wrote a article proposing that this is just a simulation.
Oh.
Which I hadn't thought about, but yeah, that kind of makes sense. And there's
right,
a
just
lot
because there's so many factors that are beyond the control of Michael. Like every time travel TV show, when you change one or movie or whatever, when you change one little thing,
Yeah.
Everything gets completely thrown out of orbit.
Right.
So maybe.
And it's like, if they fail, are they just going to get swooped away from whatever they're doing on Earth and back? Or are they going to have to wait till they actually naturally die for this to play out? There's so many, variables and potential problems that.
Well, I feel like if they can
unlikely.
make them live, they can make them die, right?
Yeah, but it's like if they really are on Earth around people who are completely unrelated to this exercise.
Yeah,
it's kind of weird. And also a lot of people scratching their head over the fact that Chidi at the end speaks in perfect English still, even though he's supposed to be Senegalese and speak French and have some sort of accent, which was smoothed away in The Good Place with filters and stuff, but would not be the case on Earth. So
true.
People are feeling that either that is a bad, an example of bad consistency on the show's part, or else it's a hint that this is not what we think it is.
Right.
I don't know. Don't really care. But, I'm certainly have learned not to try to second guess this show.
Yeah.
But it really is. There's been a lot of talk about the fact that Mike Schur talked with Damon Lindelof, who was one of the creators of Lost, when he first had the idea for the show. And boy, is it very Losty in a lot of ways. Tons of, it's sort of mythology. And you want to feel like the creators know where they're going with it. And I think that these creators do. I'm not sure about the guys creating Lost, but they had a whole different set of problems. One is which they had to do a full season, full 20-some episodes, and they had for a while they were open-ended on how many seasons it would be, and it was just a much less controlled environment. But certainly in terms of people trying to figure things out and people saying, well, this isn't consistent with this, and well, what about that? And people making up their own fan theories and stuff. It's like the sitcom version of the Lost phenomenon. And it's fun. Yeah. Lost was fun, I thought, that part of it.
It's fun to speculate and have theories and try to figure out predict and... Yeah.
So it will be interesting, as always. It's so long now until we get any more.
I know.
I hope that the social media people will be working overtime over the summer to keep giving us new stuff.
Right.
But...
yeah, their Twitter feed is definitely a really fun follow.
It is. It makes me wonder if when the actor who plays Jason went to that Jaguars game, if they filmed him doing stuff so that now if Jason is back on Earth, he can go... I was there at that game. Very clever.
That's true.
Chestnut checkers. But fun. So
really fun.
That's been a delightful 2 seasons.
And it was delightful on Twitter when Lin-Manuel Miranda said, you deserve a tiara and a diagonal word thing for your good show.
That was very cute. That was very nice. Yes. Definitely. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes from here. I was kind of sad not to get more of the whole gang in the last episode.
Yes,
though certainly understandable that Eleanor would be the one if you were just going to follow one of them, and that following all of them might have been a little hectic. And maybe they're not all, if it's a simulation, maybe they're not all getting rebooted. Maybe they just took the one who was furthest ahead and went to see what was going to happen with her.
Right.
We don't know. There's so much we don't know. And
I did not know until recently that Jamila Jamil has never acted before.
Yeah.
She was
like a TV personality, but she wasn't an actor. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, she's good.
Fantastic. Yes. They all are. I mean, really, other than Kristen Bell and Ted Danson, the other ones really have very, very little on their resumes to indicate how fabulous they would be in this. So it's quite a ride for them. But there was also a very cute article with Manny Jacinto, is that how you pronounce his name? Who plays Jason, a GQ profile of him. That was really cute. His parents are very excited for him. So
he, as usual, had some good lines in this last episode. Like, he's like, this has been one of the weirdest years. And Chidi just like, one of? Like, really? Really, man?
His whole life has just sort of been surreal, I get the feeling.
Yes, exactly. Anytime I've thrown a Molotov cocktail, different problem. Oh, I love him.
Aw, so fun.
Yes.
So much fun stuff. So I'm thinking I'm going to go back and watch it again from the beginning during this break. I kind of want to see it again now from
knowing
this vantage point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be
all
fun.
the fun stuff. Yeah. So, I mentioned that to my husband. I was going to do that. And then he was saying, well, how about all these other things you have to do and all these other things you have to watch? I said, well, I'm not going to go sit down and watch it now in a block. I'm just saying between now and fall.
Right.
I'll stretch it out. I'll savor it.
Yeah.
But that will be fun.
Yes.
Anyway, so boo-hoo. I'm sorry to see it go, but kind of glad that they are so far on such a good streak. You would hate to see them have more episodes and then it just sort of goes down. So they've got a nice long break to figure out what they're going to do and how they're going to do it.
Right.
And where we are. So good luck to them with that. Right. We will be waiting eagerly.
We will.
Yes. And so now for a bad place of a different sort. On this week's West Wing, CJ went home, and it was not a joyous homecoming. It was really difficult. And a very odd episode of the West Wing in that very little of it is in the West Wing.
Right.
Also not written in any way, shape, or form by Aaron Sorkin. It was written by John Robin Bates, the playwright, who was on the West Wing Weekly podcast and talked about it very interestingly. It was a real departure, and I think they mentioned it was because they were behind and they just kind of needed to put something in there.
Catch up
which is kind of what I thought, is like a completely independent episode, more or less independent of anything else. That could just be dropped in without worrying about continuity. And of course, Allison Janney is up to the challenge. But boy, is that hard to watch and tragic to think about.
Oh,
and
it's so sad.
You just, I understand why she didn't want to go. So please let me stay and do these press briefings, which are a piece of cake compared to what I am going home to.
Right.
And she didn't even know quite what she was going home to.
No.
So
it was much worse than she thought.
Yes. Beautiful performance by Donald Moffat as her dad, and just in and out of lucidity, and her just realizing how bad this has gotten. The scene when they're out there, there's one scene where he wants to go fishing and they're out in the middle of this river, just the two of them. And I remember thinking when I saw it the first time and this time also, if something happens there and he loses it, what is she going to do?
Right. And then he kind of did.
There's nobody else around to help her.
Right.
And I'm sure that flashes through her mind also as he his brain wanders off for a while.
Yeah, I mean,
really
it has to
sad.
be just terrifying to not only the part where he kind of lost it and started lashing out at her, but just seeing him in the home environment and how easily he could have burned his house down about 10 different times. And the mess and the fact that his bills weren't getting paid and just so frightening. Yeah,
really sad. For those who aren't watching along with us, this is the one where CJ goes home to Dayton for a high school reunion where she is supposed to give a speech, and she kind of knows that her dad has been losing it, but now she really has to come to terms with the fact that he has Alzheimer's, and it is not going well. His wife has left him because she doesn't want to deal with it either, and there's pretty much no good solutions. They go to see a doctor who's an old friend of his who is pretty brutally frank. And I liked that performance of the doctor. I thought that was real interesting the way they did that.
Right.
And there's really no point in sugarcoating it. But as somebody who's known him, that's undoubtedly the way he would have wanted it. But he's no longer that guy.
Right. It's very, very sad how
it really, really is.
How affected he is, and and obviously he knows it and he doesn't know it. As the doctor points out, he's like, it's going to be harder for those around you because you don't really realize what is happening the way that they do. So
it's really kind of terrifying.
It's devastating.
Yeah. But then on the plus side, CJ gets to sleep with Matthew Modine.
That's
so
right.
It's not all bad.
Yep, that was the bonus prize that she got in that episode.
Alrighty then.
And she did get to give a nice speech.
A little bit of a one
before she got the panic call from Toby that, like, okay, for real, we do need you to come back.
Which was completely real, but at the same time, you would have totally understood if she had said, Toby, halfway through my speech, call me and tell me there's really important things.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Get me out of here.
Yes.
Let me go back to the place where I have to deal with bombings in embassies, please.
Right, I'm good at that.
That's right. Yeah, and such a terrible situation because, she's got to feel guilt that she can't be there with him, but at the same time, she can't be there with him. And for her to abandon what she's doing to do that would be a disaster of its own.
And he doesn't want her to do that.
She doesn't want it, and she would resent it, and it would just be, and she's clearly not as good at that job as she is at the one she has. Mm-hmm. Who would be? Nobody's good at that job.
Nobody is. And you can't blame the wife, Molly, for...
No, you really can't.
Taking off. I mean, sad. It would be nice maybe if she would have told CJ that she was going to do that.
I don't understand. Yeah. But I wish that... I think the guy who wrote it mentioned that there was a longer speech for her, but it had to get cut. I would have liked to see that because I felt like that character kind of got short shrift. But I really loved when CJ goes to the house and the woman's daughter comes out and they're having a little conversation. Mm-hmm. I thought that was really nice. I'm glad that didn't fall out, that the daughter kind of knows what's going on and is also upset about it and is completely sympathetic with CJ. There's one point where she kind of tells CJ to stop attacking her mom, but you get the feeling that, she's very sympathetic to the situation and that having your mom move into your house.
Right.
It's like, could you please go back?
Could you please not be here? Back with your husband. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was nice. I thought that was a nice little detail. Mm-hmm. But yeah, certainly sympathetic, especially since it sort of sounds like it's been an ongoing sort of relationship for a long time, but now that they finally have the chance to be together, he's really not there anymore.
Right.
Yeah. So, or at least not dependably there. No. But you also can't just leave him.
No, oh my gosh. I mean, he was really...
That's inhumane because, as you say, he could easily have burned the house down.
Right.
And she had to know that. So, difficult situation. And so sadly common, I guess. I was just editing a book for senior citizens, and it was mentioning the fairly large percentage of people who are going to be getting this.
Yeah.
And I was like, ugh.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I'm going to start doing more crossword puzzles. What can I do? What can I do?
Yeah.
It's terrifying. And doesn't seem to be at this point really anything much you can do about it. So...
Fortunately not.
So
a nice, a departure from the usual West Wing, but a nice showcase for CJ, or for Allison Janney as CJ.
Definitely.
Also a little bit for Toby, like being all frazzled back in the office, trying to do what she does and really not.
Isn't there
really not succeeding?
Isn't there usually like a deputy press secretary who knows how to do this and can be there as a backup? You seem to have a shallow backfield.
I mean, I don't know why they were saying that Josh could do it when that's definitely not his job.
Ever do that again? Plus, he's not in the communications department. Really? They're that short-handed?
Exactly. At least Toby is CJ's boss.
This would be a good way to haze Will Bailey. Send him out there.
Yeah. He'd probably do a much better job than Toby did.
That's right. Well, certainly better than Josh, that's for sure. But
yes,
it was a good showcase, an interesting episode. I liked it. Well, like is not really the right word because it's kind of it's so sad. But I appreciated it more than I remembered having in the past. But it makes me think of that line from Hamilton where they say, "Can we get back to politics now, please?"
Please. So. Yes, good one.
Yeah. So
we will do that next week, right?
We will, yes. And now from a very sad episode, we will go to the happy, cheerful, full of light and love show that we watched on Netflix.
Yeah, that's right.
We watched the first episode of Godless, a Western that starts with a horrific massacre and just kind of gets more cheerful from there. So, you told me to watch out for the first 5 minutes because it was very violent. But then later on, they showed the whole thing happening. That was the part I couldn't watch. I know,
but for some reason, that part, I guess maybe because I knew what was coming, it didn't bother me as much.
No. I had to close my eyes. I accidentally opened them when they were dragging somebody on fire across the... No. Imprints on my brain. Oh.
I know. So this was the challenge for last week was Godless on Netflix, which is like I don't know if you call it a mini-series or a limited series or what the heck, but...
well, if anybody's alive at the end, I guess will depend on whether he keeps going.
Right. But it stars Michelle Dockery, erstwhile Lady Mary from Downton, in a completely 100%.
It's like she told her agent, find something as different as possible.
Right. Find something where I'm going to be like living in a dust bowl and my hair is going to be crazy and definitely no servants and lots of shooting of rifles.
That's right.
So
I got the project for you, gal.
She plays this woman who's living on this remote ranch, and it's near this town called La Belle, which for reasons we don't quite know yet is inhabited almost entirely by women.
Well, no, I think they said
because the mine.
All the men were killed in the mine.
All the men were killed in the mine, and now there's like a couple guys left who are the sheriff, who's not very well received.
And losing his eyesight, I think, right?
Right. So he has undergone some experimental treatment from the Indians nearby. So it's kind of interesting, the relationship between the people and the Indian tribes.
Yeah.
Like the Michelle Dockery character has at one point been married to an Indian man and has an Indian, has a son, and then she has like the mother-in-law that's living with her. And in one of the moments of levity, you have the boy translating translating what his grandmother is saying, but of course completely making up his own version.
When you say moments of levity, you imply that there are more.
Well, I laughed when the Frank Griffin character, who's like this horrible outlaw who caused that awful massacre at the beginning, at some point in the aftermath of that, he got shot in the arm and he has to have his arm amputated. And afterwards, he gets up on he sticks the arm up on the back of his horse and ties it up onto his horse so he can take it with him. Yeah. That made me laugh.
Alrighty then.
Yeah.
You take your laughs where you can get them on this show, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was very well done, and I liked all the performances, and there was a lot of actors in it I recognized who were very good.
Jeff Daniels is the one with the arm.
Right. Yeah. and as a very, kind of a dry delivery, I guess you would say. And Sam Waterston with the mustache as the lawman, the not the sheriff of the town, but the guy who's going around trying to figure out what's the marshal. Yes,
the marshal.
Sure. Okay. And Merritt Weaver is the sheriff's sister, and I've seen her in a number of things, and she's very good. She was very good in this. And, lots of recognizable faces. And I enjoyed I don't think I would say I enjoy. I liked a lot of it. I appreciated a lot of it. I liked the talking parts. I liked the parts where nobody was getting massacred. But that stuff is just
gruesomely murdered.
Really, really hard for me. This is the sort of thing I flee from the room when it comes up.
Yes.
And, I watch a lot of procedurals that have little violent bits, though not as much as that. And I often put my headphones in during that part. And, my husband watches Criminal Minds. We've talked on the main podcast that I have to flee for that. And I definitely had that same sort of feeling on this. Whereas my husband, I have to say, when I asked him how he liked it, I said, I thought a lot of the dramatic parts were good. I just didn't like the violence. He said, dramatic parts were slow and boring. If there was more violence, I would have stayed awake, because he fell asleep like a couple of times. So clearly we have different demands for our entertainment. He's like, more violence. I think if he keeps watching, he'll probably get his wish, but he's not gonna, because too much talking. Who needs all that talking? Yeah. So, I think it just doesn't quite fit either one of us completely.
You or your husband.
Neither, yeah. So, it's good to try new things. I was interested in what I saw, the parts that I had my eyes open for. But
I enjoyed the sort of like trying to piece together what was happening.
Yeah.
You see that it starts out before the credits with this whole scene of this absolutely brutal massacre.
Yes.
And then, then it starts with the marshal riding around and you're just trying to figure out who's who and how they're related and what happened in what order and all of that.
Yes.
Because that's not real clear. So that's the part that I enjoyed. Like, okay, that was a clue that this happened before that happened, or, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I kind of liked that part of it. But yeah, I don't know if I'll continue with the violence.
I think part of the problem also for me was that I was watching it on my laptop on a table so that both my husband and I could watch it together. And so much of it was so dark or washed out.
It was very
and
dark.
There's just a ton of dudes in cowboy hats and facial hair. And it takes a while to figure out, is this the guy that had the stuff on his eyes, or is this the guy that got shot? I mean, Jeff Daniels I recognize, but the bunch of the other guys just sort of were interchangeable for a while, the way I was watching it. I'm sure if I was sitting with my laptop right in front of me, maybe it would have been better, but...
Well, I don't know, because I was watching it on the treadmill and the light was coming in the window next to the treadmill and glaring on the screen, and that made it also add a similar problem with it being so dark that I couldn't figure out what was going on.
Yeah. So it's not ideal to watch it that way, obviously, or probably on your phone would also be a bad idea. Is that how you were watching it on the treadmill?
It was the iPad, so a little bigger than a phone, but smaller than a laptop.
If it had been on the TV and we had been watching it at night with no sun coming in, perhaps things would have been clearer earlier.
Conditions would have been.
We're trying to see what year was that, because it's like the white type against the white background. And it's very arty, but we're old people and. Like the sheriff, we don't see as good as we used to. Could you put the lettering in black, please? Throw us a bone here,
Right.
Little captions with who people are at the beginning would have been real helpful. This guy was with this guy, and then he did this thing. This is the one that you saw her shoot.
Now remember this, because later you're going to want to know.
We're giving this guy a red vest so that every time you see him, you will know.
Oh, well.
I have heard Scoot McNairy's name many, many, many times. I have never watched anything he's been in. So it's like, which one of these is the guy whose name I know? It took me a while. I had to, basically what I finally did is I opened Wikipedia and I opened IMDb. And then I started explaining things to my husband. Okay, that's the guy. I'm
right.
That's his sister. This is the lady who's out on her ranch.
Right.
Wikipedia kind of walked us through it. It was very helpful. It's good for that.
And there was that whole thing where the character played by Jack O'Connell, whose name is Roy Good, and he turns out to be a breakaway part of the vigilante mob.
Yes.
Well, not vigilante, but
the bad guys.
Criminal, the bad guys, led by Frank Griffin, who is played by Jeff Daniels. Anyway,
thank goodness they had Jeff Daniels in that part, because he can be Jeff Daniels and Sam Waterstone are our foundational people. You're either with
Right,
one of them
that
or the
you
other,
really-
and we can recognize them. I know
Right.
that face. The rest of you guys, I don't know.
Rest of you guys, I don't know. But when this Roy Good character is in Lady Mary's house, Michelle Dockery's house, and then there's this whole thing where a woman brings her baby so that the mother-in-law, the Indian mother-in-law, can treat the baby who's sick, and then a rattlesnake just comes slithering in and is about to get the baby, and instead of like trying to get someone's attention because he can't talk because he got shot in the throat, instead of like banging on the table or something, he just picks up a gun and shoots the rattlesnake right in the head. Yes. Which, then now he's a really good shot.
Yeah.
And that's part of the story. But I was like, okay, maybe that could have, I don't know. That just
maybe there were other ways to demonstrate that.
Yeah.
And boy, for a baby that was sick, that little baby was just sitting there just kind of glowing.
Yeah, and like, oh, cute, a pet is coming to visit me. Look.
Whatever that cure was, it was
snake.
Quick. Yeah, man, It sure makes me feel that was not a wonderful time and place to live.
To be alive.
Being out in the West like that, boy, life was so fragile. And so much possibility of it ending in a really unpleasant way. And even when it didn't, it wasn't so pleasant, even being alive.
No, you're living with,
just, exactly. I came and met my new husband, and then a wall of water took him and everything else away, and I wandered across.
I wandered for 8 days in my new yellow dress.
Wow.
Oh, dear.
Not a lot of fun. So, yeah, well, it's good now. We can say that we've watched. We sampled it. We appreciate it for what it is. We don't particularly want to see any more of it. You may watch the rest of it
anymore. No, I doubt it.
It's like nothing good can come from here. It's like there's not a lot of joy ahead. I got to be pretty sure.
Right. I mean, I am curious as to what is Roy Good's motivation here. I mean, he says that he stole Frank Griffin's money to draw him away from the town that he just
spectacularly bad job of that, man. Well, it was before he massacred. The massacre was after.
It was?
Yeah, he drew them away, and then it's because he said, Sam Waterston was saying at some point he turned back and came to the town and just destroyed it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was because his arm almost got shot off, I guess. Is why he turned back. But I
thought Roy Good did that when they had their shootout.
They did, and then
gully.
Yes, and that's when they turned around and went back to the town.
Oh, okay.
I believe.
Gotcha.
That is my understanding of it, though. As I say, I was watching it sideways on a laptop, and it could have been something else entirely. But that was what Wikipedia suggests. That's what happened.
Okay,
I'm not sure, but. Yeah, the only thing I missed, and I feel like going and fast forwarding through it again, there's a character who is played by the actor who was the little kid on Love Actually, now all grown up, but I did not recognize him because, like I said, there were just a bunch of dudes in cowboy hats that were kind of indistinguishable. He was like the sheriff's helper or something. So was he playing chess with him or something? Or
Yeah.
I did not recognize him. That. But I'm curious to see him in this, but not enough to watch another episode of it.
Yeah, but you could go back and watch
I could go back and
just
fast forward
through a little bit.
We know if there's something that involves running someplace, he's had experience. So
that's right.
Jumping over things, evading capture,
running after his love interests.
All right. Well, for next week, my challenge is it's my turn to challenge you. And I think I had been wondering if you could find the version of Company that was done a while ago with Neil Patrick Harris and Stephen Colbert and John Cryer and various other recognizable people, Patti LuPone. And I have the DVD of it, but it doesn't seem to be available anywhere else, except I found that it is on YouTube from great performances, the Spanish version of great performances with Spanish subtitles, but the subtitles are nice and small on the bottom of the screen. Everything else is in English. Perfect. I fell down a rabbit hole with it last Sunday, and I watched the whole thing, and then I watched a couple of the bits of the version with Raul Esparza that is also on YouTube. And so, being that our next episode will drop on Valentine's Day, I'm going to challenge you to watch that production of Company that Neil Patrick Harris was in. And it's not at all romantic for Valentine's Day, but it is very much about what it means to be a couple, what it means to commit yourself to another person, to let another person into your life. Has things both cheerful and melancholy to say about that experience. So we will watch that for next time. We will have the link for those of you who would like to watch it. I suggest watching that one all the way through. If you want to pick up a couple of segments of the Raul Esparza version that are also on YouTube, watch those for contrast. I'll put a bunch of links of things to read and think about while you're watching this. And that will be our challenge for next week. And also, I just want to give folks a heads up. We are planning to read the book A is for Alibi. Sue Grafton recently passed away, and so in tribute for that, we were going to read the first book in her Alphabet series. And that will now be for the 28th of February. Is there a 28th of February? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like...
The last...
Yes. All right. So you might want to get that out of your library or download it from Amazon or something and get reading that with us so you can join us in our discussion. And that is, along with that, we are going to watch the episode of West Wing entitled Inauguration, which is, I guess, if The Long Goodbye was the 13th, that would be the 14th. And since The Good Place has abandoned us, we need another series to be watching a little bit of every week. So we are going to pick something else that we've been hearing unrelentingly good things about. It worked out for us in catching up with The Good Place because people kept talking about it. And now people keep talking about One Day at a Time on Netflix, the new version. So we are going to start watching that 2 episodes a week starting next week. So I don't have the titles here of those first 2 episodes, but go on Netflix, go to season 1, pick 1 and 2. And watch them with us, won't you? And that is going to be it for our round 2 today. Please subscribe to Parenting Roundabout podcast so you won't miss any of our episodes, including our daily speed rounds and weekly group chats. As always, you can find recaps, links, and an opportunity to comment on our website at parentingroundabout.com. Goodbye, Catherine.
Bye, Terri.
Bye, everybody.